Hi, welcome to the Pints Polishing Podcast. I'm Marshall. That's Nick. You can find us at hypercleanstore.com. Go check out the products and go to the specialist group on Facebook. That's HyperClean Specialist on Facebook. Great place to interact and be a part of there. More and more people are going in there. It's fun to see the amount of people showing up there, Nick. A lot of fun, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool to see. So this episode today is going to be a fun one as we've kind of scoured around the industry. We've got some cool questions that we found. Now, we've said it before. There's levels to this, and there's levels that start down the bottom, and there's levels more up towards the top when you get to more of a sophisticated type questions or people wanting to know some things. So, Nick, let's hop in. Right? It's a nice cold day. I'm gonna enjoy a cold beer. I figure, hey, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Uh, cool can state champs. Okay.
Oh, there you
That's
go.
the way they want to call themselves. So this is a IPA from American Solar here in Tulsa, apparently claiming state champs on the old IPA. So let's see how it goes. So first question, Nick. First question. You love having to see all the different people curious, and we'll find into some things that are very relevant, right? As people want to know about what to do with frozen bottles, right? But first off, I guess because of your attire and the way people like the way you dress, man, more and more people want to know about your shoes. So one question specifically that I've seen around that everybody wants to know more and more about shoes. Is finding a shoe that can be waterproof. There's a guy that was questioning. Listen, he lists out different names of shoes. These didn't work, and these didn't work.
Oh, yeah.
Have you found anything that's waterproof? I haven't, except I would, kind of go with those rubber boots, but those aren't ever comfortable.
Yeah. No, I mean, you could go with there's a lot of boots that are waterproof that look better. I was never a boot guy. It just wasn't comfortable to me. And how I landed on my shoes that guys are seeing in the video is I got plantar fasciitis really bad from an injury. And,
Oh, that's
and
brutal.
I mean, look, I broke my collarbone. I broke my jaw before. I've had 2 shoulder surgeries. I don't remember anything that was that terrible to deal with. And I had to sleep
How
upright when I had shoulder surgery. So I had to sleep upright for 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. How
Uh,
old were you with shoulder surgery and collarbone? That collarbone to me was brutal. My collarbone story
yeah.
was I was trying to do rail slides, right? So a guy from Oklahoma trying to snowboard in Colorado has no business doing rail slides, but I was trying. Finally
Yeah.
got up
No.
on it and crashed down, broke the bone. Terrible. One of the
Yeah.
worst things, like coming down the mountain, going bonk, 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 like, oh,
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah. It was terrible. And I got in a dirt bike accident. And I mean, knocked myself out cold. I was out cold for over 24 hours, separated my shoulder, broke my collarbone, did some real damage. The other time that I messed up my shoulder, it was just like a re-aggravation. They had to do another shoulder surgery. It was just miserable. I mean, an absolute miserable existence. And when I got plantar fasciitis, I thought that was way worse than all of that. Like, you can't even walk around.
It's like what,
Like
a
you,
bone spur that's popped out and like hitting the
no, it's a
tendon or
it's a
something,
it's
right?
a it's a fascia on the bottom of your foot. And the problem is they tell you to rest. Well,
Yeah.
look, all of us have a detailing business or, do anything, and you just walking around your house sucks. And so you're doing all these stupid exercises, you're trying to get it to just feel good. So the only reason I got the shoes I got was because that was the only ones. I must have bought 100 pair. It was the only ones that felt good on my feet, that like it wasn't re-aggravating consistently. So I wear Reebok Nanos. They're the best shoes that I have found. The number one important thing when you're detailing cars for shoes, I know everybody says, hey, Nick's shoes look clean. They're all black. You can't see anything. And so, of course, they look clean. And I've given that advice on this podcast a million times. Just wear yourself some all black shoes, all black boot, whatever it is you buy. When you're detailing cars, dark colors are your friend,
Mhm.
because it's not a clean endeavor a lot of times. Now, obviously, if you compound and polish, sling it all over yourself, it's going to show up a little bit more, but hopefully we're beyond people doing that. But at the end of the day, you need to find shoes you find comfortable. Everybody's feet aren't the same. And so what I think a lot of guys try to do is they ask somebody for advice on shoes. And I got news for you. What works for me is not going to work for you, and vice versa. You got to find something that works for you. You got to find something that's comfortable to you. I know a lot of guys wear those Solomon shoes, which are more of like a hiking type of shoe. And they find that they held up pretty good to water. But, I really appreciate that people ask this question. I know they ask it in a lot of groups and different things like that. The only advice I can give on shoes is you better find ones that fit your feet and stop worrying about what everybody else wears, because you're going to have them on all day. You're going to be on pavement. You're going to be in your shop. You're going to be in your garage, whatever it is. You better find something that fits you and the width of your foot and the length of your foot, and all that stuff that I didn't give a shit about forever until I got plantar fasciitis. Once I got that, dude, I was real picky about shoes.
Yeah, wait till you get arthritis in the knee.
Yeah, that'd be
That'll
another
wake you
one.
up in the morning too.
Yeah, just go ahead, dude. I mean, just add it to the list. But yeah, just
So
find what works for you.
I've kind of borderline gone Corvette guy. It just without the white, and I'm stuck on New Balance. I don't know why.
Yeah, the funny
I
thing is, you know what happened to me? I bought a pair of New Balance and I literally wore them for like a month and they just ripped up on me.
hmm,
And so that was the last pair I bought. I was like, what the hell is going on here? Why are these things? And again, you got family members that swear by those shoes. You
mm-hmm.
got friends that swear by those shoes. And if they don't work for you, they don't work. Right. So there's a lot of guys that are concerned about what someone else is wearing. And I'm telling you, when it comes to shoes, find the thing that fits you. Like, I
Yeah.
can't stress that enough. All of us are walking around on our feet constantly, whether you're doing PPF, tent, find some stuff that works for you.
Well, in the summer, go with Crocs. There we go. Let's go. All right. So here's a fun one. Where can I get good brushes that don't scratch semi truck paint? Ding. Oh, I thought
I
semi
wouldn't.
truck paint was pretty hard.
I would. I
So,
would. I would think that every one of brushes do that.
but a
I don't.
boar's
I don't.
hair, you get a good boar's hair, Dustin, some of our boys. There's some people that love a good boar's hair brush. You find the right soft boar's hair. Now, where to find them? I, geez, I don't know. Could you find a good soft boar's hair on Amazon? I mean, maybe, but isn't there what's easy detail and some of
Yeah.
I think the problem is people go, I'm not going to spend $40 on a brush. Like some of those
Yeah.
brushes get up there, but if you're wanting something super soft for a finesse type job, like you're going to have to
Yeah, and
spend
look,
some
you're
money.
talking about, you'll probably have to buy a pole, I mean, it's gonna run you. If you're in that business, it's gonna run you. I know people have some things that like have wash pads, on a stick and different things like that. That's not my area of expertise, but I would assume every brush is going to provide some type of damage to a painted surface. And again, if you're in a world that somebody's not paying you to take that level of care, maybe that's why guys don't care, right? I can't imagine I mean, I know there's guys that are really into their semi and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars getting their semi dialed in. They may be the customer that's like, hey, hand wash this thing, and they're going to pay for it. There's these other ones that are like, dude, I don't care, just knock the dirt off this thing. And I think a lot of people again don't realize that a lot of semi washes are using really strong chemicals to the
Very
point where
strong.
they really don't have to
Mhm.
touch the vehicle all that much. So you may have to look at both angles and see what works.
Mhm. And, as we move in, there's a question about fleet. And, I had loved my fleet work with my semis. I found some pipe haulers. And of course, around here, you can find plenty of, gas type companies. And they've got plenty of trucks that need cleaning. We needed in and out, we needed quick, and we needed, not too heavy to damage. So, finding those and getting just a good average brush with some soap and degreaser, 100% fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
I mean, when you talk about fleet washing, I have a buddy that I grew up with who now has a multi-state pressure washing company, and they clean tractor trailers and garbage trucks and all that stuff. They use an injection system, but their whole key is they use hot water.
oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So they back up. They got these huge box trucks. In the box
Mm-hmm.
truck, the whole box truck is their facility. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like their pressure washer system is literally the whole back of the truck. They got a couple places for their chemicals, but the whole back of the truck is a pressure washing system.
It's like Ben, who's in the group out of Canada. right? Remember seeing this was what, gosh, it's maybe now a year or so. His burned, and his whole back end of his truck burned down. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and so when you get into this fleet type of work and I never chased it because when I got the opportunity, I couldn't refine my process and keep my guys on task with doing car work and then what it took to do fleet work. I thought that was a very hard, constant transition to ask people to flip a switch all day long, go wash these 20 vans for a plumbing company, and then go over here and touch a Lamborghini or go over here and touch a Range Rover. I think that's a hard switch. So I think if you get into fleet work, maybe it's just one day a week you do fleet work. You got to realize that you're probably switching to a higher alkaline soap. You're probably trying to figure out how to knock out the exterior of a van in 12 to 15 minutes maximum. You're not cleaning the barrels, you're not being as detailed, you're just getting some tire shine on. It's a whole different world, and I think that's why guys struggle and always ask questions about fleet work is because they're taking the detailer's mindset and they're putting it on fleet work. And I just don't know that works.
no, I love it. And let's go into that because one of the next questions was about somebody had seen, a local pizza place. They had met the people that owned it. They had some couple shops around. So they had plenty. Each of these shops had a couple of these Chevy Traverse. There you go. Dustin and all you Traverse lovers. Had a couple of these Traverses out. It was a Domino's, if I remember, that I saw this question. Listen, what do you think? Domino's or Papa Murphy's? What are we doing here? Which direction would you go? It's Friday night. You got to go get pizza. You getting Domino's or Papa Murphy's?
Papa Murphy's, don't you have to cook your own stuff?
No. Oh yeah. You're right. It does. Papa John's.
Oh,
Papa
Papa
John's.
John's for me.
Well, yeah, that's terrible, right? That's true. I always remember when those people came into town where you had to cook your own stuff, and I always got them confused years ago. I'm still getting it confused.
Yeah, no, Papa Murphy's to me sucks. I'm not trying to. It's the same
Yeah,
price.
I'm not trying to cook my own stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same price. If you're saying, hey, look, if you go to Domino's, it's $50 for your family. If you come to Papa Murphy's, it's 25 because you got to throw it in the oven. Okay, you're giving me something. You go to Papa Murphy's, it's the same cost.
All right,
But I'm
Papa
more of
John's.
a I'm more of a Papa John's guy for me
Yeah.
personally.
We were sitting the other day when we talked, right? I was sitting out in front of one. It's like, man, I love that dipping sauce. Like, give me that whole thing. Like, it's
Yeah,
just like
I think
butter
Papa
and
John's is
garlic.
underrated. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like it.
But Domino's thin crust, hard to beat. Thin crust
Yeah, it's good.
pepperoni, that's hard to beat. That's hard to beat. All
Yeah,
right,
it's good.
so we got a detailer that's talking to one of these people. They got some other locations. You're right. So they're wanting to know, okay, well, what should I do? Right. We see this question throughout. It could be, hey, I got a dealership and there's going to be cars. Let's just overall blanket it as, hey, I've got volume work and I've got a chance here to do some volume work. What This is some of the question people go, what discount? Oh, hold on. Discount package. That's why I brought it in now early because you mentioned something. Hey, it's different work. It
Yep.
should be different from your retail. You mentioned barrels, you mentioned a couple things. I think that's how some people can understand this. What maybe some things we could keep out or make different in a package? What does that look
Yeah.
like, fleet versus individual?
Fleet's time. I mean, you only make, what a lot of people don't know is fleet work on a dealership lot. They're like what, $1 a car?
Oh, if you're yeah, just
Yeah.
exterior wash and
Just
dry.
exterior wash, like $1 a car.
Yep.
So you're not charging $1 a car to wash at someone's house. It's different. And people have to understand, and I get why people get confused, is this has nothing to do with detail work. This is extremely unique fleet washing work. So you got to figure out fleet washing work entirely different from your detailing business. Those things are not even related to me because even if you talk about doing fleet interiors, most of the time, what are you doing? Wiping the dash, wiping the steering wheel, maybe doing some center console really quickly. You're not, you're running a quick vacuum and you're done. And that's, 7 to 9 minutes on the interior. You're 15 minutes on the exterior. You go anywhere over 20 to 25 minutes on a vehicle, fleet work is out. Now, somebody's going to chime in and say, well, I do fleet work and we do more detailed fleet. Okay, well, you found some unicorn clients, but most fleet people are like, hey, our wrap on our vans are dirty. I don't want to show up to clients' houses dirty. Can you get it cleaned up? So, what do most fleet companies do? They take a high alkaline wash, they spray it down, they rinse it off, they maybe touch it up, with a quick detail spray for any spots that are missed or didn't come out clean. They're done. Most of the time, they're not doing windows really detailed. They're not doing those types of things. And again, you got to find out what that fleet account wants. You're going to have some people, and there's some construction companies in everybody's town. They want their trucks dialed in all the time. There's other construction companies that just want their trucks sprayed down. So inside of fleet work, you're going to find two separate clients, guys that want to take care of their stuff and guys that just want their stuff rinsed off, basically. Right? I mean, you're going to go through that whole gambit of type of people. And so you got to talk to the person that's standing in front of you. If it's like, hey, man, I just want these things to look presentable, you're probably looking at a high alkaline wash, almost like a no touch wash, which gets dangerous doing it outside. You don't want to burn anything up. In the middle of summer, you're going to have to figure out, hey, can I put this under shade somewhere? You got a lot of different things going on.
Or you're going with a neutral pH, high lubricity soap like foam wash, and going back to the earlier guy and pulling out a brush, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, it is what it is. You're going to use the least aggressive on the soaps, but a real soft brush to just quickly go around the outside. Now, I think where people miss out on, they think of fleet and they only think you mentioned a dealership and the lot guys that go and spray them off. There's also this wholesale program at dealerships where you can go get detail work, right?
Yeah.
You can go be an outsourced company for them. And even there, some guys get confused. But I'm going to say this. I think it all depends when people want to know, well, what price should I do or what package? Listen, like Nick said, you got to talk to the people that are there. And then you've got to be a good salesman.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's one thing that I have learned heavily over years and years and years is sometimes I got accounts and I got stuff based on price. And then I heard of other guys that got a much bigger price because they sold and they knew how to sell and they would talk about the advantages. They talked about why. Now, the flip side of people go, hey, I don't know if I'm an incredible salesman. I can go get these big tickets at these places. Another option, like we've talked about, heavy of what I used to do was go to a place that had a lot of business people, a business park. You're going to get a Fleet S style, maybe a little bit more of a not deep detail. You're going to get a lot of people there that you can concentrate on for 1 day, 2 day, 3 days and pack in your labor. You don't have travel, going back and forth. You're at one location. Or, hey, what about going and setting up a place at a parking garage, at a hospital? I know those are big in some places when you can do. There's a lot of different avenues. I hate people that pigeonhole and go, oh, I got a discount or I got to go this for fleet. What about just also wholesale and a lot of volume places? You don't necessarily have to go cheap on the quote unquote style of detail or not being detail. You just can maybe shave off some expenses to the customer and price wise because you don't have the expenses.
Yeah. No, it's a great call. And this is where you start to get into salesmanship and you also have to know your numbers. You have to know how you're going to make money, right? So you may start on fleet work like this Domino's customer and these guys just want the stuff to look presentable. You may be able to charge them, $50 a pop. You may go to another fleet account and that fleet account is $150 a pop based on the time that you're willing to spend and they're willing to pay for. Right? Now, you got to kind of know your numbers internally when you're sitting down with somebody to give them a price in the moment because these people don't want you to say, well, I don't really know. This is the importance of knowing your numbers. This is the importance of knowing your process and how you can shave your process up and down. You can add to your process or you can shave your process to meet that customer. It's a fleet account. It's a wholesale account. we see a lot of people having great success, and they have our entire career. I started with a company, the second company after I worked for a wholesaler. They did awesome at dealerships, and they were getting anywhere. This is in the 2000s. They were getting anywhere from 200 all the way up to $1,000 to refurbish cars. But they had a price list that these dealerships had, and it was like, hey, we're gonna glaze the car. It's this cost. Hey, you need the whole car needs wet sanded so you can get it frontline ready, was the thing that we always talked about, being frontline ready on a dealership. And you have these variants in fleet customers. Nobody's out of the realm of making a lot of money. And you and I know some of the people making the most money in the detailing business have 3, 4, 5 dealerships feeding them work. And they're knocking out 200, 150, $350 details all day, every day. And they got a team of 25 people and they're just cranking it out. Now, what do they have to do? They got to be on their numbers. They got to be on their time. They got to be on what their employees are getting paid. Those businesses, now you're getting into big business. So none of this stuff, and I think there's always an undertone of what is right and wrong when it comes to fleet work.
Absolutely,
And the
yeah.
reality is there is no right and wrong. Every fleet account, every dealership account, everyone's going to do something different. So you just have to make sure you're situated to understand how to help them and make yourself some money.
And then because so many people, let me flip it upside down.
Mm.
The lens of a detailer, right? They're thinking through specifically so narrowed focus because they're one part. They got started in detailing this way, and they want to be a detailer.
Yep.
And there we've talked about pitfalls over the years. Like
I'll give
there
you an
lies a
example.
pitfall.
Y-
Yeah.
there- Every detailer listening to this will be like, oh man, I want to do PPF work. You know, some of the guys making the most money in PPF, they're doing all dealership work. And let me tell you about that work. If you think that's high quality PPF work, it isn't. It's garbage. And those are the guys making the most money usually, meaning by volume and by profit at the end of the year, right? You'll see all these shops and they'll be like, oh, these guys are working on Ferraris and this, and they're working on that, and they're working on this. They didn't tell you that their PPF business, they're out at 4 dealerships a week, sticking on half-ass PPF to what? Supply to the dealership. So what they're doing is they're making money because they're ordering more film and the film company's bringing their price way down. So now their cost is way down and they can afford to do a 1,400, 1,200 full front end at retail because you don't understand. They got all this other business at the dealership that's lowering their total cost of film because they're moving so much product. And so even when you think about something that so many detailers look at PPF and go, oh, that's the pinnacle. Even in that world, most of the guys making a ton of money are doing quote unquote fleet work. That's what they're doing. And they're also doing retail work, don't get me wrong, but they're also doing a ton of dealership work. And so this idea that there's a perfect world and you have to do these types of, it's just not true. There's a bunch of ways you can go in this business. And again, this goes back to, I know Brian has said it on these episodes and I've said it on these episodes. Not going and working for different kinds of companies gives you that narrow mind of what a detailing company is.
Mm.
I worked for a wholesaler that was moving 6, 7, 800 cars a week through a tri-state area auto auctions. I got to do everything to cars. Then I went to this other one that was at dealerships, and I moved from the lower end dealerships to the higher end dealerships and the services we were offering just inside that company. Then I started working with some OEMs. So now I have a complete view on what is the detailing business, and it's not what you're just seeing on TikTok or YouTube, or you're cleaning the tires 4 different times to get them perfect. That's all great when you have that work, but there are millions, if not billions of dollars exchanging hands in all different parts of this business.
All right, let's go to the next one. And this is from a guy that, listen, and I said I picked these out of random groups. It's just groups that you and I are in. We go through and we just find stuff we
Yeah.
think is funny and we go back and forth. This guy grabbed some stuff off of, you can tell he got it from like Walmart. Ironic that we just had a kind of a conversation about Walmart or parts store. But, he's like, hey, I put this 3-in-1 spread and loves it, but it only lasts a couple cars.
Yep.
Right. And wants to know, is there a better solution if he goes in bulk? Okay. seems to be a generic kind of question, but it is a question that you hear throughout each level of detailer, right? Let's for instance look at this guy. I've bought it here at a parts store. I'm spraying it. I like it, but it's a 32-ounce bottle that he only got 3 cars out of. So he's having to put 10 ounces pretty much per vehicle. That's a lot,
Oh yeah.
whereas then you go to some other guys that they'll buy stuff and they'll go, listen, and which is what he's saying, bulk, right? You get to some guys that'll use some things and they'll go, oh man, but if you don't have it in 5 gallons, I'll never do it. I gotta have 5 gallons.
Yeah.
Like buying in bulk, does that necessarily mean that it's better? Do you
No.
get a bet right? You don't. Like that's why I kind of brought us into this discussion a little bit, right? We can easily see and go through groups and go, yeah, that guy grabbed something off the parts store. Yeah, I get it. Like then we can
Yep.
go to people that use some stuff that you can buy in a 5 gallon that isn't that much better. So, does buying in bulk actually mean that it's better?
No. It just means usually the people that sell in 5 gallons or up to 55-gallon drums, they're selling you the lower, for it to make sense price wise, they got to sell you a lower quality product. Not always. I mean, we could offer, Eco One comes in a 5 gallon concentrate. You can very easily, mix that with water, and you basically have Eco One that would come in a gallon in a 5 gallon, right? We have 5 gallon options. That's not always the case that it's worse, but usually the companies that play in the 5 gallon market are companies selling to dealerships, companies selling a lot to, things like auto auctions and different things like that. And so for the specialty detailer, for the detailer trying to do things on a high level, we seem to have one style that is reigned supreme, which is the gallon. The gallon has been the thing that has allowed companies like ours or others to give you a high quality product at a reasonable price that'll last you decently. Most of our stuff that comes in a gallon is dilutable, not all of it. Like something like Slick's not dilutable, but let's be clear, you're not using 10 ounces of Slick on a car. You're using a couple sprays per panel. I mean, a 32-ounce bottle filled out of a gallon lasts my guys a long time. A long time. I've had this conversation with people before when they talk about a product like Revive, and they're like, it didn't last me very long. I'm like, you're doing something. Let's get to the bottom of what you're doing. How much are you spraying on an interior? This stuff goes a long way.
Which is why I brought up, which is what I love. Like this becomes sort of that back and forth when people are trying to figure things out, right? His answer and a lot of people's answer are, I just need to get something I can buy in bulk. It's not exactly true. And when you're buying some cheap stuff, then you're having to use way too much of it. I wonder why. Why is it cheap?
Yeah,
Huh. you know,
yeah,
what makes it cheap versus a quality product that, yeah, you're going to spend a little bit more for R16. For those that want to do samples, get the 16 ounce, use that as the sample. I really would almost wager that this guy using the 32 would use a lot less on R16.
oh yeah.
Like it's
Well,
strange.
it's
Then
well, it's
some of our
also knowing
gallons,
how to use a chemical, right?
and
We have we have
there's
a
the next,
big
yeah.
we have a big conundrum from the prosumer to the beginning pro and even to some seasoned pros is that they just don't know how chemicals are supposed to work. I.e., a lot of people don't read the directions on the bottles, the gallons. They don't see what they should be diluting it at. They don't analyze the trucks they're working on consistently. We see this a lot in dilutable dressings. I was told for years when McGuire's brought out hyper dressing, and I know you remember this was kind of like a watershed moment for a lot of us when dressings became dilutable because they weren't always dilutable, right? Then we got a dilutable dressing and people saw the price of it and they're like, oh, I'm not going to use that. It's like, dude, it makes 5 gallons out of 1 gallon. So this is way cheaper than what you're using. But they didn't ever read the fine print on the bottle. The directions on the bottle were telling them, don't use this full strength, cut it to this for this, cut it to that for that. And so a lot of things come down to not watching and understanding the directions of the product. Most of our line, and we have companies using our lineup that do a ton of work, and they still are doing okay doing it out of gallons.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about that. These guys that are doing a ton of work aren't even approaching us about the fives.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people that approach us about fives have no business buying fives. All the people that you think would buy fives, they're like, no, the gallon, it works well for us. It takes up less space. I can keep it in a cabinet much easier. I can put it on my guys' trucks easier. That's the position that I'm in. I have access to 55-gallon drums. I could just have you, HQ, hey, I'm purchasing a 55-gallon drum, send it to me. I don't even want to do that. The space it takes up, the headache, pumping it out of there, all this kind of stuff. I just rather you send me the gallons. And the gallons go a long way in a product line that's built properly. Now, if you're a guy that wants 55s, let us know. You're a guy that has to have all this stuff, let us know. I think most brands feel that way. If you called up and said, hey, I want to use this and I'm going to buy a ton of it, for whatever reason you're going to buy a ton of it, we'll make it work for you. But this idea that you have to buy in bulk and that's somehow, I can't stress this enough. In a business of my size, I don't even concern myself with chemical cost. On the top 3,000 things I'm worried about, a chemical cost in a detailing business should be so low on your list. Now, that doesn't mean go out and try 5,000 chemicals a year and dump money down the tube. But if you are working with a good company, which I've done my entire career, I worked with reputable companies. I never, ever had an accountant look at me and go, what's going on with this chemical bill? And by the way, they don't even know what I do. They don't even understand it. They're like, what? This is all it costs you to run your business? They can't believe it compared to the people's taxes they do. So detailers have got to change, and the prosumer as well. Everybody's got to change. You have no idea how inexpensive it is to make a car look great. So buying something that's $10 cheaper a gallon is not even worth really the conversation at the end of the day because of all the trade-offs of that $10 or that $15. Because in the end, you're not going to care about it.
So, all right. I love seeing earlier Prime got his shoes. Prime got his Nike. Prime got his face under the Nike and it says Prime on the shoe. Love it. You know what else is Prime? Prime for discussion on winter. Every group, right? Every group is nothing but I'd listen. And that's why I said earlier there's levels. And you can see it in the winter discussion. And I feel for the guys and girls that are going, hey, my stuff is frozen. What do I do? Like, couldn't understand that they got to a point in winter and you got water-based products that are freezing.
Yep.
I ran into it too when I was a
Yep.
rookie. So that's why I said, I get it. There's levels. I mean, what do? You can put heaters out into, you can maybe rent a storage place and put a heater there. You can bring your stuff inside. There's all kinds of ways that you can handle chemicals freezing. It'll take you a winter to get over that. If you don't get over it, it's like what I was talking about with a new distributor. Love having new distributors. New distributors are great. New distributor in the United Kingdom is even greater, right?
Yeah.
And so we were talking about winters here. And what do guys do? What do they do in winters there? How's it like? It's like, you get through a winter and then you hopefully will know what to not do the next winter. There's a lot of learning curves to this, but here's one that I found interesting. And this was, and like I said, you can see them all about the chemicals freezing, et cetera, right? But you had a guy that, do you use, and this is a question in general, people will say, hey, mobile detailers, you've got this big tank. Do you use a transfer pump to go to your power washer, or do you just do a downfill? Let's start there for a second. I was always a downfill guy. I didn't want this second pump, this other thing. I did have some power washers that didn't take my downfill the way I had it set, and I dumped the power washer. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't going to change my downfill. It worked for a minute. I had a power washer go out. The new one didn't work, so I wasn't going to change my downfill. You're a downfill guy too, I think, right?
No, we have pumps on everything. I don't have a transfer pump.
That's yeah.
Transfer pump is where guys are trying to get the water into their pressure washer that doesn't have the proper pump on it. So my pumps on the side of my pressure washer are AR pumps. That's what we've always used. First of all, we use gas pressure washers. That's the ones we found last the longest.
Maybe
And
that's
so,
part of it. You think some people are questioning this because they're using an electric pump?
yeah, well, if I'm not mistaken, Krensla's or things like that, or even the active we have at HQ, that has an internal priming pump anyway, right? We don't have to downfill to that. So
Mm-hmm.
most high end and good electric pressure washers you would want are going to have a pump inside them that allows it to draw all the water. Because even our active that sits up high at HQ, the water's coming from down below it. It's not a downfill system. That system's coming from below, and it's priming itself and it's pulling the water, right? So it's the same on the back of my trucks. I have our tank, then I have the feeder tube that goes into the pump, and the pump self primes and it primes it through the pressure washer. And so I don't do all this transfer pump and this pump and that pump for $600 to $900, gas or electric. You can get it where that water tank can be sitting anywhere. As long as there's water feeding that pressure washer, it's going to prime itself and it's going to pull out water. So I don't know why guys are doing all of these intermediate steps. Maybe they don't know. Maybe they just think it's too expensive. But you get from the $600 to $1,200 range, you should be able to build a robust pressure washer that essentially is all one unit, and it's self priming. And so I don't use downfill, and I don't use transfer pumps. My pump, I guess people could say the AR is a transfer pump in some way, but it's a pump attached to the pressure washer that pulls in the water. And so that's what I do. And I've actually never done it a different way because I didn't know where to stick everything. So if it wasn't in one concise unit, I wasn't going to get it into my truck.
Yeah, I've been confused about this transfer pump stuff myself. What type of power washer they're using? It never made sense to me. But this guy was having a problem. This is why it's ironic, is he has a problem with his transfer pump because it froze and it cracked, and he wants some recommendations on a different one.
Yeah, well,
Like it was
Ryobi, look,
like
you're
it
not
was
gonna
the
you're not gonna use
transfer.
something on the level of a Ryobi and have this thing work out for you.
Yeah, well, hold on. I was gonna say, like it was transfer pump's problem that it froze and cracked, and like he needed to get a recommendation for a new one. I was like, hold on a
Yeah.
second, let's pause for a second. You froze and cracked it was working just fine, but yeah, I think that probably there's got to be. And listen, go into the hyperclean specialist if you're listening to this and you've got something to feed into this moment. Go into the specialist group and leave a comment. Let's talk about it, because I think, Nick, that's what I think, the same as you. I think a lot of guys are probably using something like a Ryobi or something that's just really small, and they're expecting it to feed. And so then they're having to buy this extra pump.
Yeah, and remember, if you're worried about something freezing, this goes even for your pipes at home. I grew up in the Midwest where that was a concern. HQs in a cold area, we got to worry about it. I believe water only grows about 10% when it freezes. It doesn't grow, it doesn't like expand 50%. It's a very tiny amount. So if your transfer pump is freezing, that means you're leaving water in there. So just take your pressure washer and empty out the water after you turn your pressure washer out. That transfer pump is probably not going to freeze and break, right? You're emptying the water out of the system. And there's care you have to take in the wintertime that you don't have to take in the summer necessarily. But it's a great habit to get into, just like it is with your foam cannon. You hear guys complain about foam cannons all the time. Well, if you leave soap in the orifice the entire night for months on end and you never clean it out with just running some clean water through it, it's going to get buildup in it. And so all this stuff is, again, maintenance based. And so if you have a transfer pump and that's the system you're running, nobody's telling you to upend your system, but you got to get the water out of the transfer pump before overnight hits. And even a little bit of water in your transfer pump is not going to crack your transfer pump. Your transfer pump cracked because it was full of water. When it was full of water and the water expanded that 10%, kaboom, it broke the pump. So it doesn't even matter about the quality at that point. None of them are made to take a 10% expansion of water, no matter how high quality you buy one of those things at all.
What size tank do you have? That's just some of the other people, maybe it's a size of
Everything's
tank,
100 gallon.
100 gallon. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Then
we have
that's
it built. We have all of our tanks are special built to the truck. So we take the dimensions. So some of our tanks, if the wheel wells come in really, really into the bed in some trucks, we have the box. It's a low pro tank that we have specially built to fit that exact truck. Go up to the right height that it can still close, but just below that. So we get everything. And look, it's an upfront cost, and you can have those built any way you want. Those companies special build tanks. Most people don't realize. It doesn't mean you have to do that, but every tank company will special build to whatever dimensions. You just got to be willing to pay the bill, and it's not that expensive over the rest of it. So everything of ours is self-contained under the bed of a truck. So we have a tonneau cover. It comes down. All covers lock. Some of those covers have even more clearance because they kind of go up a little bit. So, I mean, we could probably, in one of our trucks, I think we could have gotten a 150-gallon tank. But then you start putting some wear and tear on your brakes. It's another thing. When you start using your car or truck and you have water tank, let me give you the best piece of advice that I wish I'd have known. Go get the biggest brake package that they'll put on your truck. Period, point blank, end of story. So like our Tundra, Toyota brakes don't come from the factory that great. The first thing we did when we bought that thing used, we beefed everything up. Hey, as big as you can get on here, as durable as you can get on here. And we almost had an industrial brake system on all of our trucks, meaning we beef it up that much.
I mean, or you could just get a standard and downshift as you go, come on.
Yeah, it could be. I mean,
Yeah.
that sounds like something if you had employees, you probably wouldn't want them doing, but okay.
Could you imagine,
That's how
right?
Marty did a lot of working on his own there.
Could you imagine?
Oh,
First-
dude. Come on. That would be a nightmare. You'd be blowing up transmissions. You'd be doing everything.
All right. So speaking of blowing up some stuff, there's a guy that posted, he bought a new DA. Congratulations. That's awesome. That is a great step for a lot of people. Bought a DA, and he's been watching some videos that apparently had blown up and gotten pretty popular. Is what he said. I don't know. And they were about priming the pad, but not priming it like we've talked about with the compound of polish. It was more, you need to prime the foam and condition it with this spray before you put on product. And even some people in the comments were talking about, use your rinseless and spray it out, but just make sure you're careful, because when you go turn it on, it's gonna, right? Like it's right. You and I are both going, right? Like what the hell?
Here?
But there is some type of philosophy out there where people are spraying a conditioner inside of a foam pad to help prime before then they put on a compound or polish.
I don't know what the hell's going on.
I thought that was a moment of silence.
I mean,
that we were doing a thing.
If you're that concerned, I guess a spritz of water would be just fine. Some distilled water, some DI water. I don't know.
But a quick detail spray, that was some suggestion.
No.
Quick detail spray's got a lot of silica. Like it's got a lot of stuff you don't want in it. Like
no. All of these things that have gone on around polishing is just mind-blowing. First of all, the rigidity of a pad. So I see people making this argument that they use a pad washer and they put the pad washer in there and it helps break in the pad and makes the pad a little softer. Well, I don't want the pad to be softer. I chose the pad I chose because of the rigidity that pad has, or the lack of rigidity. Right? like we're watching a lot of inexperienced people say a lot of things online that just don't make sense if you've actually polished paint. I want rigidity in my pad. That's the reason they put walls on pads. Just think of it logically. That's why you have some pads that have a denser foam and a less dense foam. Why? Because there's a rigidity difference in those two systems. I don't want to affect anything. I want to work with that and what that pad brings to the table. Okay. We are going to be releasing a video on our YouTube channel where I talk about this priming the pad nonsense and this constant need to add more stuff to the pad. Well, there's two things that cut paint or finish paint: the compound and the polish and the abrasives and the lubricity in those formulas, as well as, guess what? The type of foam or microfiber or wool that you're using that causes friction with the abrasives in the formula. That's why there's a guy that's been teaching a long time and detailing that always talks about abrasive technology. You want to get as many abrasives on the surface as possible. Well, then why don't you just use one pad for everything if it's only abrasives? If abrasives are the only thing that matter, you should be able to just put one of those $2 bonnets on a rotary and go to work, because it's, as long as I choose the right abrasive, it's all going to finish out for me. It's not how it works. You're choosing an abrasive with then a foam, a microfiber, a wool pad that works in conjunction for the proper friction and the proper cutting and the proper abrasive technology to get the finish that you want. Like, we've gotten to such an insane level here that we've taken something that is pretty simple to learn. It's hard to get great at it, but it is simple to learn. There's a very big difference. It's simple to learn how to hold a tool. It's simple to learn how to do passes. It's simple to learn all that stuff, which is the basics of polishing a panel. Getting great at it is just going to be time and understanding. And we don't even talk anymore about seeing through the polish or the compound. You notice that nobody ever talks about that?
And I don't, you mentioned it, what, a couple weeks ago when we were talking about something and we were like, and I just go, yeah, I haven't seen anybody talk about, because
Except for the high level guys. There's high level guys that talk about it. And those guys are usually really great at it, great at polishing, and they'll talk about seeing through the polish, right? So again, you're talking about the 1%.
and that's what I was going to say. We just don't ever see those people, right? The
Yeah.
mass majority, which we talked about on some previous episodes, because of the algorithm, because the way people have gotten, like, we just don't get to see so much of those people that are here because they're so smart at this. They're not trying to think about all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, so algorithms and getting up there maybe doesn't,
We just don't talk. We don't talk about what polish are you using. If you're using a diminishing abrasive, you automatically have to work that more than what you think, because you got to diminish the abrasive down. So you almost got to get that to look, you got to be able to see through that polish to know when the abrasives have completely broken down.
And there's
And,
not a single level on the polisher, right? There's a lot of people
yeah,
that teach with those that you start low, then you go up high as you begin to break down. Once you get it up high and you can start to see through it, then that will determine how long you stay in that, right? Like, how much of passes is that? I don't know. I wasn't
yeah,
trying to count passes. I was trying to use,
see through the polish.
yeah,
Yeah.
almost in a sense. Let me hold on a second, Nick. Did you just cross over into like Jedi mind tricks, like where we have to like become a Jedi to understand polishing? I think you just went there.
Look,
I'm pretty sure.
I'm just telling you, if somebody's telling you your pad has to be damp, you got to spray something on your pad. I don't want anything to screw up, my personal opinion. The pad that I've made the choice to use, I've made for a specific reason on that pad. I've made the choice of a certain compound and a certain polish for certain reasons. This whole altering all of this, to me, is not something I watch any of the elite people do consistently. Now, you have polish drying out on the surface. You may see an elite person give a little water spritz to reinvigorate it and add some lubricity in. And so there's some tricks of the trade there. So we don't have to dive into all that. I understand. You've even seen people water polish where they put a couple drops of polish into a water bottle with some water, and that allows them to control the heavy abrasives a little bit more because that's all they have. I know the tricks. The basics and all of this extra stuff is getting you no closer to becoming good at polishing paint. None of it. This idea that you want to spray an outside detail spray that you have no idea the ingredients. By the way, what if that starts to fill in scratches and not remove them? Why are you? And look, most rinseless, let me tell you right now that we've tested, there's some silicone in there. So that silicone is going to have an adverse effect. I don't care how dry you get the pad, it's now in the pad. You can do what you want. Doesn't affect my car, doesn't affect my client's car, doesn't affect your car. Everyone's going to do what they want. 4 or 5 dots. Stop wiping the polish with your finger unnecessarily. We'll show that on a video. I still don't know what the hell everybody's doing other than trying to sell more compound and polish. It's not, the basics aren't this difficult. I promise you, it just isn't. If it was, we'd all get paid more, right? So I got no reason to want it to be easier, but it's just not this difficult, and I would not do that personally.
All right, you sent me a video the other day, and it was pretty cool. It was a TikTok from somebody that it was the discussion of how much or how important is relationship in sales. Great video, great video. It was really interesting. I'd like to think of it as I locked into this next and our kind of final discussion point. And it was a comment that somebody had made about, somebody's post. And it was around this idea that, okay, but if I have a maintenance customer, right? Somebody that I do weekly or bi-weekly, and this guy actually inside of this particular post had a $600 a month guaranteed customer. This guy spent $600 every month with him. Where does the relationship fall into that? Well, you should have relationship with this guy, right? You should kind of understand some little bit about him, some little things that are going on. You should understand him. The question, right, sort of what got into the moment for this detailer, which is the practical part for all of us. Okay, well, this guy wanted a polish, and I quoted him $300. He went to somebody else and got a better quote. Should I match the quote because he's my $600 a month guy, and maybe I should go down on my polish? Half of this guy's budget a month was going to go into one polish. So first of all, we got to ask ourselves, should I have quoted him that high? Maybe I should have thought long term, right? There's some different things that I want to play out with this. Let's start there. I've landed a maintenance customer where we're doing regular things every week or every other week. It comes time that this customer needs a polish. Should I charge half? No. What should I charge? Or should I not even charge at all? Which is going to be kind of more what I lean into and what I did. I always just took care of my maintenance customers' cars, almost in a sense, no matter what. This was before coatings. So, our maintenance customers that we do now, we do charge them for coatings, but everything else, it's kind of part of the maintenance.
Yeah. I don't do that. If somebody needs something outside of maintenance, we give them the price that's the price. And good customers usually are like, yeah, go ahead and charge me. I wouldn't do PPF for free. I wouldn't do tint for free or anything like that. I don't know this specific customer's problem with $300 to polish paint. That doesn't sound that out of bounds to me. Now he could have been just talking about he wants his car buzzed over for an hour. I don't know what the conversation was. You don't know what the conversation
Yeah,
was.
good point.
If somebody wants a true, we don't have any polishing package that's $300. So I don't know what transpired here, but I can guarantee you one thing: there's more to the story than was given in the post, right? And that's where, everybody's a hero of their own story. It's something we need to really pound home in all of our brains is maybe you got to look at, did you not communicate with this guy very well? Did you not explain to him the work that was going to go into your 300 or 500 or $1,000 quote? Were you not consulting with him on what he needed done? And so there's a thing with this whole thing where guys are concentrated on building a relationship, but they're not concentrated on consulting with the customer on what they want done. I don't need a relationship with anybody to consult them on what service to provide them. I don't need any relationship, right? It's better if I have a relationship, and we all know relationships are more likely to get you the sale long term. But if somebody calls you off the street, in 5 minutes, you're not going to build a relationship. That's a complete fallacy. What you're trying to do is get that customer to trust you, that you know what you're talking about, and you're asking them questions, and you're trying to find out how to consult with them to solve the problem that they have.
All right. So let's talk about that for a second. Because when I listened to this guy's thing, and which is what I said, I did. I chose the this is why I wanted to bring it up. I think there's a lot of detailers that are kind of struggling with this and don't understand that clear moment. Do you need a relationship with your customers that are long-term customers? Yes. Relationship is key to having customers. What level of that relationship? Oh,
That varies like
that
insane levels. There's customers, I've said
insane
this,
levels.
I've had customers that I've had 10 years now that I've hardly talked to for a total of 10 minutes over 10 years.
But there's a lot of detailers that will push their view of a relationship onto the customer
Yep.
and will actually over, right, over engage, over communicate too much.
Yep.
So, how does that go, right? Like when I'm thinking relationship and I'm thinking maintenance, I'm thinking long term with the customer. How do I take myself out of this part? Because if I'm somebody that really wants to talk a lot and talk to people, or maybe I'm somebody that is, I don't want to talk to anybody, and I
Yep.
actually don't, but I should supposed to have a relationship with them, right? Like relationship and customers
Really,
can.
I think relationship's just the wrong word. And I've kind of said this on the podcast a lot. I think the video I sent to you is more of in line with what I believe and what I've shared on this podcast. When people call me, I'm asking questions to figure out what their problem really is with their car, right? Maybe somebody wants to get a coating, maybe somebody wants PPF, maybe somebody wants polish, maybe somebody wants this or that. And then from there, I consult with them and say, hey, by all the things you've said to me, if this were my car, this is what I would want to have done. That's not a relationship, that's consultative,
Yeah, you're
right?
right. That's not people calling you, but we were talking about maintenance, like, and
Yeah.
and
It's
I
still
would
it's
have given
still yeah.
away. Yeah, I would have given away. Like I said, I considered that part of the relationship.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep your car looking pristine, prime,
Yep.
and if it needs something extra, no worries. I'm going to take care of it. I'm not saying I was right either. Like
Yeah, no.
I
You
considered
gotta
that
look, I
relationship.
think
And I
yeah.
think to your point on what this is actually no, you need to sell. You need to explain why they need to pay. That's much more important than this perceived notion of a relationship.
Yeah, you can't grow your company by giving stuff away consistently. You give stuff away here and there, it's just the extras that come along with it, but those are usually very minor. When you talk about putting a pad and polish and compound on a car, that's not minor anymore, right? That's not like throwing in a deeper wheel clean, or you're going to go through the interior with a steamer once in a while just because some things have started to build. You know what I mean? Those are minor things that you can kind of eat, and you're just doing it to be to stay on top of their car because they've spent 10 grand a year for you with you, and you're just going to continue to take care of them. But you start talking about, I'm going to give them a service that's going to take me 6.5 hours. You can't stay in business with team members. I mean, you can't absorb that. And so when you look at the reason so many people have this adverse feeling towards sales and towards maintenance and towards everything is, I think, because they're looking at it as sales. I look at it as a consultant. I'm your consultant to take care of your car. You just brought me this. You want your car polished. Now I need to walk you through the time I'm going to spend, what you're asking for, what we have to do, walk you through the steps, all those kinds of things, because this person approached you about a service, right? So you got to take it from the beginning and say, okay, let me walk you through how we perform this service, why we perform it this way. The reason, hey man, I get it. You talked to somebody and their service was $150. I can just tell you that you're going to run into this, and this problem because you can't do this for $150. There's no way you can do that. And let me explain why. I'm not trying to sell people. When you're actively trying to sell them, you're missing the point of this person. You got to get to the root problem that this person's trying to solve. And then you got to help them solve it through your information. Right. And that's why I think so many people that are telling you to build all these relationships, they're leading you down a path. There is not a human being on earth that can create a valuable relationship inside 30 minutes. Doesn't work. Now, can you get somebody to trust you inside 30 minutes? Absolutely. But that's not a relationship. That's getting somebody to understand that you know what you're talking about. A lot of times that's done by question asking, not by you talking, and answering directly, exactly in a very clear manner what they're doing, what they want done, why they should choose you, what your process is, why you've done this, what your qualifications are to do this work. And I think people get really bent out of shape about the sales thing because they look at sales, to me, completely wrong.
Well, and I think a lot of us get into this moment, this guy in particular, and you can see it across the industry, quote
Quote
unquote,
unquote.
is people that are, they get to this moment and they're not exactly quite sure what to do. Should I, right? Is his question. Should I go and lower my price to keep this other guy from taking my business? Because then he even states, because if he goes and takes him for the polish, maybe I lose this customer as a maintenance.
Could be.
Could be. Yeah,
And so
that
here's
is
the
a
deal.
risk.
If you're that worried, you need to lower your price. If you're that worried. I mean,
And
that's the reality of it.
yeah, and or right, if we're in this moment and it's that particular moment, yeah, you should probably drop your shorts in a sense, right? Like,
Yep.
go ahead and take it because you want to keep this $600 a month guy, right? Or let's put ourselves into a little bit different situation, and let's go, it's not this 600, it's not that, and let's just go into somebody's calling me, which we talked about a second ago. There's a guy down the street or somebody that's used me. Maybe it's not a regular maintenance every week to every month. He's a customer. But it doesn't matter. There's always another guy that can do it cheaper.
Always.
Always. So is our answer then, here's what makes me different? Or am I asking questions? I get to that moment. There's a guy down the street that can do it $100 cheaper.
Yeah, your sales process has got to be one of the biggest concerns you have in building your business. Plain and simple, because without sales, you don't have a business, right? You can be the best paint polisher in the world and you can have no customers, and therefore, what's it matter that you have that skill? You're not making any money off of it. You're not having any success off of it. A lot of guys just don't have a process when they pick up the phone. We've actually had full episodes about 20 questions, 10 questions, 15 questions that you can rattle off, and you can walk people through exactly why you're going to recommend what you're going to recommend. If somebody calls and say, hey, I need my paint, my car polished, and you go, that's $1,100, click. That's not a process. There's no context to what that $1,100 buys that person. That's not, there's no, why is this person going to somebody else to have their paint polished when it's already seemingly a very low number at $300? It's a pretty low number, very low number. Did you not explain it? Did he ask you a question? You just shot him a price. You didn't dig into what he really wanted done. You didn't get any answers from him or her. What happened? And so you have to refine off of the jobs you've lost and stop just thinking that everybody goes to the cheapest person, because they don't. They go to people that they're comfortable with their knowledge base. That person made me feel comfortable that they're going to take care of my car to the best of their ability. If you can make people feel that way, relationships are relevant. It's irrelevant. I mean, it's a form of relationship, but it's not. It's not any type of real relationship. If people know you're always going to get the job done right because you're so good at the sales process that you make them feel comfortable, you're going to be in business the next 50 years. It's just about making somebody feel comfortable, that you actually know what you're doing on a high level, and leading them through questions to make them feel comfortable, and then having clear, concise, understandable, simple answers is what a consultant does. I don't look at any of this stuff as some kind of, we're not in a hard sell business. We're just not. This isn't, life insurance. This isn't, this isn't timeshare, sales where they're just trying to hard close people. You're going to go through questions and you're going to consult with them on what they want done to their car. And you have to make them feel comfortable about the price that you say. And that's all done way before you give them the price usually. By the time you get them to the price, they're either sold or they're not sold on what you're doing. Now, can some people get a sticker shock if they're not used to buying a service like this? Sure, they can. But they're going to tell you that they're shocked right there. They're not just going to hang up the phone. They're going to usually say something along the lines of, I didn't know this really cost that much. And you go, okay, well, let me explain it to you. I've been doing this 7 years. I've put my lifeblood into this. We have a ton of equipment. We have all the right equipment. We use all the finest polishes and compounds, which is what we're going to be using to fix your car up. All of this stuff adds up, and our skill is what we've invested time in to know that your car is going to be taken care of on a high level. There's a lot of things that can go incredibly wrong if you choose the wrong person for this service. You could end up in the body shop. You could end up having your car repainted. That's not what you wanted out of these types of services. But those things can happen by trying to go to a lower priced individual. That right there makes people feel comfortable. Okay. Because the reality is, I'm telling them how bad this can go. I'm not doing it in a judgmental way of the guy down the street. I'm saying, is it yes or no? If somebody doesn't know how to polish paint, what is the worst case scenario? You're in the body shop, and you might be in the body shop on the whole car. You might be in the body shop on the roof. You might be in the body shop on the hood. You might be on the body shop on 4 panels. So it's a consultative selling of, realize that the customer, when it comes to detailing, in my career, maybe 1 or 2 customers knew what they were talking about. The other X number of hundreds or thousands had no idea what they were talking about when it came to detailing. And it's our job, if you're doing this professionally, to educate them through questions and answers and consulting with them, of educating them on how this thing really works.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people that want to know how to grow a business, how to do it in the winter. Hey, you can do that in the summer, the spring, anytime. Love it. Great talk, Nick. Guys, we'll see y'all next week.
See you guys.